Hey, Sci-Fi Valley Con. This is Samurai Jill here with Greg Baldwin.
Hello, my friend. How are you this fine morning?
I am doing wonderful.
As
Not
am
many
I.
people know, but the reason my cosplay name is Samurai Jill is because Samurai Jack is my all-time favorite show.
Insignificant mortal, you dare to stand behind the master of masters, the shogun of sorrow.
Azula dares.
Azula
versus Aku.
Azula works for Aku. What are you talking about? You know,
They'd be
Azula.
besties.
Yeah,
They would be best
yeah,
friends.
absolutely. You know.
So you're best known for your, reprising, taking over Mako's roles.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into those, I was playing one of the best video games I've played in a long time, Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh,
And
I love
came
that show.
across a certain storyteller. And I
Gyozen.
was like, I know that voice. So what was that like to?
You know, it was funny, and it's happened to me a couple of times. I went in. I don't think I even auditioned for it. I just got the call, and they said, "Greg, come in. They want you to be this Gyozen, the storyteller." And I'm going, "Oh, a storyteller." I'm trying to think of a storyteller voice. What sort of a storyteller voice would it be? And I go in, and of course they say, "Yeah, that's great, but could you make it a little more like Mako?" It's like, okay, I'm the Mako. I'm Mako man. I'm your guy,
But we're all so lucky to have someone that was able to take over for such a legendary, voice actor. And you've done such an incredible job.
Well, I try to honor his life and his legacy. The funny, the weird thing is, people think that I actually met the man, and I never actually met Mako, not once. I hope to meet him someday, but not today. I learned to impersonate him because I loved musicals since I was a kid. For my 17th birthday, I got a record album from a show called Pacific Overtures, which starred Mako. I would sing along with it over and over and over again, and that's how, when you flash forward to 2006, I didn't know it, but I'd been working on a Mako voice match for 30 years. So like Iroh says, and I love it, destiny is a funny thing, and you never know how things are going to work out. If my parents hadn't given me that record album for my 17th birthday, someone else would probably be voicing Iroh today.
How about that?
Yeah.
The way things work out sometimes.
It really is. It's strange.
Are there any other impersonations you're good at that we don't know about?
Oh, I do a lot of them. My Frank Sinatra is quite good. I do a very good impression of Randy Newman. I like to do singing impressions.
I saw you had a YouTube video where you sang a Frank Sinatra song
Frank
as
Sinatra.
Aku. And
As
that
Aku.
was so cool.
Aku, I did it. Aku's way.
That was amazing. You should do that with more songs and characters. That
You know
was
what?
so much fun.
I think I might go back. I haven't revisited it in a while, but I have some ideas. I think it might be funny to have Iroh in cosplay singing Sinatra's New York, New York. But instead of New York, New York, it's in Bossing Say.
Oh my gosh, you have to do this.
So I'm thinking,
yes,
yeah, perhaps.
That sounds perfect, yes.
The only problem is I'm lazy. That's the biggest problem.
That's the biggest obstacle for a lot
Absolutely.
of us, right?
I'm just lazy.
So since I am cosplaying Azula today, and a common theme throughout Avatar is redemption, which we see in Zuko and Iroh, do you think Azula could ever be redeemed?
I believe she can. And indeed, the only line of Iroh's that to me seems a little out of character is where he says she's crazy and needs to go down. Because Iroh is clearly a loving man. He loves his son, he loves his nephew, and I think he loves his niece. And it seems out of character for him to say that, oh no, this child who's clearly suffering from, severe psychological trauma is like, no, she can't be helped. And maybe it's because she doesn't want to be helped. I think that might be it.
But she's still so young.
Yeah.
So, she's growing to do, so much can happen.
I would very much like to see her redemption arc. And interesting, a fan, I think a couple of weeks ago when I thought this was so beautiful, we were talking about Iroh's redemption arc, and how he went from, the general that laid siege to Ba Sing Se to the person that we know and love. And this fan, it was so profound. He said, Zuko is Iroh's redemption arc.
Yes.
And that is so beautiful because I think he is. That's how Iroh atones. It's not just Lu Ten's death that changes him. He has to change Zuko's heart and change and by doing so, change the Fire Nation's heart. So, wow, that was rather profound, actually.
That
I know,
really
wasn't
was.
it?
I got chills right there. That was excellent.
Thank you.
So we'll go to a fun question
All right.
now. So one of my favorite parts about this con is there was a karaoke after party last night. So I wanted to know, what would Iroh sing at karaoke?
If I had gone, I would have sang the Ba Sing Se, the Frank Sinatra thing. That's what I would have done.
Song.
I would have
Aw.
sang it,
That
But
would have been great.
Instead, I opted to go to the hotel bar and maybe got a few, I'm
sure you had
a few
too.
too many cups of tea. And at that point, it's like, no, I don't think I should go do any singing.
Well, that's sometimes when it's the best singing is after a few cups of tea.
Exactly.
All right. Well, one last Samurai Jack question.
All right.
So you were a fan of the original run of the show.
Absolutely.
That's what I heard. And we were also lucky to get a resolution to the show 10 years later for us, but in the show 50 years later. So you had a little leeway.
Yeah.
Aku changed in 50 years.
He did.
Jack changed.
He grew a stupid beard.
He did. It was kind of silly looking, right? In the original run, Aku was always the villain. He was always the antagonist. But then in the new, the final season, Jack, his antagonist was himself at the beginning. He was fighting his internal demons.
Yes.
And so was Aku.
Yeah,
How did you, just the character development with Aku, because he was always, otherworldly and overbearing in the first run. And then we see him, he's playing psychiatrist to himself. Was that fun playing,
it was great.
Going back and forth
But
with
you know
yourself?
what? It was actually, Iroh was an easier part to voice.
Yes.
And it was the genius of Mako, because Aku has to be terrifying.
Yes.
And he is, but he's funny.
Yes.
And so Mako could switch, in a millisecond from being terrifying to being funny. That to me was always the challenge. It's like Iroh is very much on a straight line. And Aku is very much not. He's all over the place. So that was always the challenge. I think by the end of the run, I actually remember watching it with my wife and saying, okay, that's not too bad. I'm all right. That's sounding a little bit more like Aku.
Well, you didn't have to, like Mako, when Mako passed away, you had to pick up right where Iroh left off. But Aku, 50 years later,
I had a little leeway.
He
was different because 50 years. And the cool thing is, Gendy Tartakovsky said, as far as he's concerned, he finished the Samurai Jack story, but I actually heard him say this. If anybody wanted to go back at Cartoon Network and fill in that 50-year gap, he said he would not be opposed to it. So, who knows? Maybe we'll see, Aku and Jack again. It would be pretty cool.
I want that. Gendy, if you're listening,
Gendy.
I want that.
You know what I want to see? My idea for the show is Hate Night with Aku. It's a talk show.
Oh my God.
Hate Night with Aku.
I would listen to podcast. I would watch that. Oh, I love Aku.
And every guest he obliterates.
Sometimes
he vaporizes.
He's just a perfect villain. Aku could never be redeemed.
No,
I don't think so.
No.
Azula, yes.
Azula,
Aku.
yes. Aku, no. And you wouldn't want him redeemed.
Even when it ended and Jack finally beat Aku, I was sad because Aku
Spoiler
was
alert.
Because
It's been long enough.
You just love to hate.
Yeah.
He's the perfect villain, and you did such a perfect job.
You are very kind, my friend. Very kind.
Thank you. Anything, are you any recent or upcoming projects we can hear you in?
I am currently in, you can hear me in a Disney show with Gray and Kari, who are here, called The Ghost and Molly McGee.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think we were renewed for a second season. And the other thing I'm thinking about doing is possibly running for governor of New Mexico in 2026.
Oh, my gosh.
Possibly.
Well, that's a whole career change.
Yeah, I know,
right
that
there.
would be. Well, the thing is, there was in the last gubernatorial election, one of the candidates was the local weatherman. And I said to myself, well, if the local weatherman can get nominated,
wait, I could do this.
I bet Uncle Iroh could win.
I think so.
So the question now is not, it should be not. I want to do it for the right reasons, not just because I think I might actually, because I might be the dog that caught the car. It's like, okay, I became governor. Now what do I do?
Right.
I want to go back to just signing autographs and talking to fans. So we'll see how that goes.
There's different ways to make a difference, and you make a difference here with all your fans.
Absolutely.
And I wish if you run for governor, I wish you the best of luck. That'd be incredible,
it would
right?
It would be a career
I would
change.
vote for Iroh. And you.
My family isn't fully on board with it yet, and so until they are, I'm not going to make a concrete decision. But what started off as a joke, it is something I'm actually. If anyone could heal this divided land, I think it would be Uncle Iroh.
That'd be making a difference in a huge, impactful way.
So we shall see.
We shall see. Thank you so much for your time, Greg.
You're most welcome, my friend.
Come meet Greg Baldwin at Sci-Fi Valley Con.
Come on.